Okay, let's look at price elasticity of demand with substitutes. Substitutes. Yeah, there you go, substitutes. Okay, so what we're going to do is just give you an example and show you how the graphs are moving. For purposes of exams, you don't have to draw the graphs, you just have to understand what the story is. Okay, so price elasticity of demand for substitutes. Let's say we have two products. Let's say we have Coke and Pepsi. Okay, so you have Coke and Pepsi, and we're going to see what happens when the price of one of them changes. Right? Change in price will affect the quantity demanded of that good, but will also have an effect on the demand of the other good, right? Not the quantity demanded of the other good. Ultimately, that will happen, but the initial impact is on the demand of the other good. Okay, so we're going to look at Coke and Pepsi. Okay, let's say we start at the following situation. Pepsi is $1, and at $1 the quantity demanded is 100 units of Coke. Okay, that's Coke. Okay, and then for Pepsi, also $1, quantity demanded, also 100 units. So this is where we're starting at. Okay, this is our starting point. Let me draw that two graphs up. So we have got the graph for Coke and the graph for Pepsi. Okay, this system doesn't allow me to draw it very accurately. I'll do my best. So at the moment, $1, 100 units. Demand curve, same over here. Demand curve, $1, 100 units. So this is the situation we are in at the moment. Okay, so now what is going to happen if the price of Coke changes? Right, so we're going to change the price of Coke. So I'll bring this back down here. Right, I will change the color of the pen, and we say now that the price of Coca-Cola is going to go up to $1.10. Okay, so the price of Coca-Cola is going to increase. Note that there is no change in the price of Pepsi. Okay, change in price is equal to 0 for Pepsi. The only thing that is happening is the change in Coca-Cola. Okay, the law of demand tells us that when the price of the product goes up, the quantity demanded will decrease. Let's say the quantity demanded of Coca-Cola will fall to 80 units. Right? And there will actually end up being an increase in the quantity demanded of Pepsi because there's going to be a change in the quantity of Pepsi. So let's see what's going to happen with the graphs. Oops, let me undo that. Maybe I can't. So 1 second. Let me just rub that. Okay, I can't move that. Never mind, I'll close this and I'll bring these two graphs back. Okay, so what is going to happen over here? Right? In the first place, there is going to be a change in the quantity demanded of Coke because it's $1.10. $1.10. 80 units. Okay, so that's the first thing that is going to happen. Okay, so what is now going to happen to Pepsi? What is going to happen to Pepsi? Okay, we come back to this over here, right? Now we're going to see that as Coca-Cola becomes less popular, right? Coca-Cola becomes less popular because it's become more expensive. At $1 we used to demand 100 units. At $1.10 we're demanding 80 units. And part of that reason is people are now going to the shops and buying Pepsi. Because Pepsi is now relatively cheaper than Coca-Cola. Because the price of Coca-Cola has gone up. So even though the price of Pepsi has not changed, there is now going to be an increase in the demand for Pepsi. So you are going to get a new demand curve for Pepsi. I'll move that up. I come back down here. And it's going to be a new demand curve for Pepsi. Demand curve D1. okay, there has been an increase in the demand for Pepsi, right? So at $1, instead of just wanting to buy 100 units of Pepsi, the quantity demanded will increase to, I don't know, let's say 120 units. Okay, so even though there has been no change in the price of Pepsi, we end up with a change in the quantity demanded of Pepsi, right? But the increase in the quantity demanded of Pepsi has occurred because of the change in the price of Coca-Cola, right? That has led to a change in the demand for Pepsi. Okay, it's only after the demand for Pepsi has changed, at no change in price, do we end up with an increase in the quantity demanded of the product. Okay, so we're going to end up then in the situation. First, what has happened? Increase in the price of Coke, right, leads for Coca-Cola a decrease in the quantity demanded of Coke. That is simple. But the increase in the price of Coke has led to an increase in the demand. Okay, demand. Notice this is quantity demanded, this is demand. In the demand of Pepsi, which ultimately leads to an increase in the quantity demanded of Pepsi. Okay, so put that back there, move this up here, bring this back down here, and there you go, and you see the impact of substitutes on the price elasticity of demand. In this case, I increase the price of one substitute good, which will automatically reduce the quantity demanded of that good, Coca-Cola. That should be relatively straightforward for you. The question is, what is the effect of the change in price on Coke on the substitute good, which in this case is Pepsi? Okay, because Coke is now relatively more expensive, Pepsi simply becomes more popular. Okay, so without a change in the price of Pepsi, there is an increase in the demand for Pepsi. New demand curve. Okay, new demand curve with no change in price will ultimately lead to an increase in the quantity demanded of Pepsi. And that is the situation with substitutes with the price elasticity of demand. You can try and practice in another situation where you reduce the price of the product and you see what happens to the substitute good.